I've been going to India pretty frequently since I was a kid, and the way that you fly to India on a lot of planes is you walk into the plane and then you're going to walk through first class, then you walk through business class, and then you end up in the economy section of these international planes. And when I was a kid, I used to sit in economy class. And the way that it would work is you walk through first class and you see these little cubicles where people have this whole desk, this whole bed that can lay down, and this big TV, and the people that work there are so friendly. Then you go through business class and you see the same thing. You see these really nice pods where people can sleep, where people can do their work, where people can relax, and you have this really nice airline staff. And then you end up in economy class, and now you have everybody who's sitting like sardines, and you have to sit like this for 20 hours from America to India. And the staff is typically nice, but not always the nicest. I always wondered, how do you people afford these big, nice seats? What did you do to get there? But I also noticed that other people would get very angry. It's not fair that these people have these big seats and I have to sit like a sardine in the back. It's not fair that they get to have all this nice stuff. Who are these people? These people must have done something bad. They must have done something evil. You start to create all these negative connotations because somebody has something that you don't. If you've ever said one of these three statements, I want you to stop this immediately. If you've ever said, that's way too much money, or I can't afford that, or it must be nice to be able to afford that, I want you to stop saying these things immediately and change the way you speak and change the way you think, because if you can change those two things, you change what you say, you change what you think, well, that's going to change what you do. And if you can change what you do, it's going to change what you get. And this is where now it all starts with the way we speak. Because if you keep saying, oh man, I can't afford that stuff, only rich people can have that, it's not for me. If you keep talking about money as something that you cannot obtain yourself, it is going to be impossible for you to get it, because the way you speak is also going to influence the way you think. Now it also works backwards, where the way you think influences the way that you speak, but it's easier to change what you say than it is to change what you think. And if you change what you say, it can change what you think. And if you change what you think, it's going to change what you do. And if you change what you do, it's going to change what you get. I went out to eat last week with a few of my friends at a very nice restaurant. And one of my friends there kept complaining about the price of the food. He kept talking about this cauliflower steak that cost $48. According to him, they're just cutting a slice of a piece of cauliflower. They're going to put it on the grill, flip it on the other side, and I put it on a plate and charge you $48 for this. And he kept saying about how much of a ripoff it is. After he complained about the price of the cauliflower steak for I don't know how long, and I turned to him and I said, bro, look, I never said this was a discount restaurant, because you're not paying just for the food, you're paying for the value, you're paying for the experience, and quality things have a price. And either you pay for the quality or you don't. And if you want the quality, it's going to come at a premium price. But we all know people who have this broke mindset around us, where you're constantly complaining about the price and ignoring the value and the quality that you get. Now, you don't want to overpay for things and just throw your money places, but this is where I want you to start developing a different mindset, where you're not just focused on price, but you're rather focused on the value that you receive. Because if you're only focused on the price, well, it's going to be very difficult for you to achieve any sort of success, because you're constantly pinching pennies because you don't want any pennies to leave. Well, at the end of the day, a penny saved is just a penny. And this is where you want to start developing the wealth mindset and try to figure out how you can achieve more. So the first thing I want you to do now is change the way that you speak, because this is the simplest thing to do. It's not easy, but it's the simplest thing to do, because if you change the way you speak, it's going to start changing the way you think. And if you can change the way you think, well, you know where this is going. So now what I want you to do is stop using these dead-end statements and turn them into more open-ended questions. I can't afford it yet, but how can I afford it? So instead of saying I can't afford it, ask how can I afford it? Instead of saying it's way too much money, ask why is it so much money? Or how can I be able to afford to pay this? Instead of saying it must be nice to be able to afford that, say I can't wait until I can afford that. Because now what you're doing is you're creating this open-ended way of thinking, because you're not just saying that you're never going to be able to do it. You're not saying that you don't have the capability to attract more money. You're now changing the way that you think, because now you're looking for ways to attract that money. This one thing of changing how you speak played a big impact on me, because I remember when I read the book Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki, that was one of the things that he talked about. He says that instead of saying I can't afford it, ask how can I afford it? And I started playing that back in my mind, because growing up, I kept hearing that a lot. I can't afford this. We can't afford this. That's a lot of money. We don't have money for this. These were the type of things that I grew up hearing. And when you're bred to think like that, you're told to think small, well, it becomes very difficult now for you to think bigger because it's in your DNA to think small. But the thing that really inspired me to make this video today was a book that I'm reading right now. I'm reading a book called What Happened to You by Oprah and by Dr. Bruce Perry. And this book focuses a lot on childhood trauma and how that affects adults later on in life. That's why they say instead of asking what's wrong with you, start asking what happened to you. And one of the things that they talk about in the book is the way that you speak to a child and how that affects them later on. And the way that I interpreted it is we create this level of comfort as a kid because as we're developing, as our brains are developing, what we see around us is what becomes our comfort level. If growing up we're always told that we don't have money, that we can't afford things, that things are too expensive, the rich people are evil, that becomes our level of comfort. Almost like a thing in our DNA that this is what is normal. And then as we get older, we want to go back to our comfort level, even if that comfort level is miserable, because that's what we know to believe is comfortable. That's what we're taught our whole lives. And so now as you get older, if all you've heard is, we can't afford it, I don't have money, I can't have nice things, well now as an adult, you continue to think that way. I can't afford it. I can't have nice things. I can't have this money. That's for rich people, and rich people are evil, and that's not something that I can have. If we're bred to think that way, well, now you're going to start living that same way, and then you're going to pass down that same way of thinking and talking down to your kids. Now, when your kids want to have nice things, what are you going to do? You're going to say the same thing that your parents said to you. We can't afford that. We can't afford to have these nice things. That's for rich people. We don't have that type of money. And now what you're doing is you're creating this generational poverty. You're creating this generational brokenness because your parents taught you one thing. You continue to believe it because that's what you're told to think. And then you continue to spread that and pass it on. And this is where you want to be able to break it. And I know it's hard because it gets into your DNA. It's what's comfortable. We have this comfort that we're looking for, but this is where you have to start getting uncomfortable. You hear that in the entrepreneurship space a lot, that if you want to become successful, you have to stop being so comfortable. You have to get comfortable being uncomfortable. But this is the same thing here. If you want to become successful, especially financially successful, you have to start becoming uncomfortable. And one of the ways that you can do that now is by changing the way that you think and never, ever, ever saying that you can't afford something again. Because as soon as you say that you can't afford it, your brain stops thinking about how you're going to be able to afford it. And this is where now you got to start asking that question of what do you have to do to be able to afford it? What videos do you need to watch to learn how to attract more money? What books do you need to read to learn how to earn more money? What classes do you need to take in order to actually create more income? What coaching do you need in order to achieve the level of success that you want? What businesses do you have to do? What is it that you have to do in order to be able to achieve the success that you want in life? And as soon as you start doing that, it's going to start changing the way that you think. It's not immediate. But you have to reprogram your mind to start thinking like what wealthy people do. Because wealthy people don't sit there and say, I only made $1 million. I'll never be able to make 1.5 million. No, as soon as they start to see the success, they're going to say, all right, we made $1 million. How can we make 2 million? How can we make 10 million? How can we make 100 million? How can we make 1 billion? And it becomes more scalable, but you have to start thinking that it's possible for you. In business, there's a saying that goes, you sell the way you buy. And what that means is if you want to sell the high-end stuff, you want to sell the luxury, the quality, the high margin, the expensive things, but then you're living a lifestyle where you're only buying the cheap, low-end, low-cost, low-value, low-service stuff, you're going to struggle trying to get by selling this high-end stuff. Because if you want to be the Rolls-Royce of the world, but you're acting like the Toyota, well, you're going to have a tough time trying to get by because now you're selling like a discount car. Now, I know Toyotas are much nicer now, but if you're selling like a Toyota, when you're trying to live like a Rolls Royce, you got to understand there's a difference. And if you want to be able to sell and achieve the Rolls Royce lifestyle, you can't keep living like the Toyota. If you want to live like the Gucci, the Louis Vuitton or whatever, but you're acting like the Walmart, you got to understand that there's a discrepancy. Now, I'm not saying go and blow your money at Gucci and Louis Vuitton. But what I'm saying is you got to understand the difference between price and value and not live your life based off of price, but rather live it off of value. I don't blow my money on a lot of luxury things. To me, the brand name clothes don't matter. I don't shop at Gucci. I don't shop at Louis Vuitton. Those things don't matter to me. But I will spend money on value and quality on the things that are important to me. Things like travel. Those things are important to me, and I will spend way more money on that. I'll also spend way more money on business assets, things like coaching and consulting. I spend a lot on money on business coaching and consulting. I'm talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars a year on things that will provide me value in my business. And you got to understand now if it's something that is providing you value, if it's something that's important to you, or if it's something that can help grow you financially. These are the things where you want to be looking for the quality. It's the thing that you want to be looking for the value, instead of just penny pinching on something that's supposed to make you a whole lot more. So now we talked about your language and the way you speak and how that impacts your success. And then we talked about value versus price and why the value that you're receiving is so much more important than the price or the cost of something. The third thing that I want to talk about is the people that you're around. Now, before I get into this, if you are an entrepreneur or if you are a business owner and you want to see how you can do better in your business and you want to see what's happening in the business economy, well, that's why I created Business Briefs. It's a completely free resource for entrepreneurs and business owners to help you be more up to date on what's happening in the business economy, because we cover things like innovation, we cover business trends, we cover what's happening in the entrepreneur and business world. That way you can spend more of your time and energy working on your business instead of just trying to understand what's happening in the business economy. Business Briefs is completely free, and if you are an entrepreneur or a business owner, I highly recommend you subscribe because there's a ton of value in there. So if you want to join Business Briefs for free, I'll put the link to how you can join down in the description below. If you enjoyed this short clip from my longer videos, here's another clip that I think you'll love. And while you're at it, if you're interested in learning more about how to start generating passive income, our team put together an amazing guide on how to start generating passive income for free. All you got to do is click that button right over there. Thank you for watching, and as always, keep hustling.